Hello, this is the other half of my testimony of what Jesus has done. My name is Karen, and I was born in 1973 at the Birmingham Queen Elizabeth Hospital. I come from a family of 10, with me being the oldest. My family moved around and lived in different areas. One was Ladywood, Ockley, Winson Green, Handsworth, etc. I would like to share some of my life before Jesus saved me. I went to different schools. One was St John's Infant School, Church of England. I went to with my sister, Margaret, over where we lived in Morville Street, Ladywood. Then we moved up to St John's Junior School, up St Vincent Street, Ladywood. I used to get bullied a lot at this school, and others I went to. My dad and nan, Mum, who was in a wheelchair, used to come up there schools to sort out the bullies. But the other one I went to was in Winson Green, Shenstone Road. This was a special school. I used to be picked up on a coach from home. Also, other pupils were picked up as well. One was Anne from Waterworks Road, Ladywood. I also went in a taxi. They used to pick me up. I didn't like going to school. I also didn't like swimming also at school because I couldn't swim. I still can't. My dad said I'll be alright if I don't go by water, because I didn't like going to school. My dad kept me off a few times, and other schools as well, so I didn't have much education. Anyway, at Shenstone School one day I was in the playground and I fell over on the concrete floor at break time on my back, and all my body was in pain and hurting. I didn't know what to do. I had to sit inside the school reception. No bones were broken. Bit by bit it stopped hurting. It did make me feel sick. And another school I went to was Holyhead School in Handsworth. It's amazing how God, even then I didn't know God, it's amazing that He protected me. Anyway, I went to Holyhead School in Handsworth. That was a special unit. One part, then there was the big part. The big part was on one time. I was smoking, my friends. A few times one day a teacher man caught us, but after a while I started getting this blockage in my chest, like it's blocked. I still have it, but I got used to it. Even as a Christian, I started smoking when I was with Terry. Before we got married, but I couldn't blow out the smoke because of the block, so I never smoked again. The special unit had a night nurse. Also, I used to like my teachers there. That was just a few schools that I was talking about. I also liked long hair, but my dad would have our hair cut short, so I used to buy full wigs, plaited Caribbean hair, and I used to put it on my head, and I liked long hair. Sometimes I unplaited it and made it a mess. It's so funny. But I also never went out much. I spent most of my time in the bedroom. I used to help my mum with my brothers and sisters. Like a mum, my dad was there as well. One day we were living in Ladywood, and my mum felt like she was having my brother to give birth. My dad then went out to a phone box to ring for an ambulance, and I had to get this bucket. She was having him, so he was born prematurely in the bucket. That was Thomas, my younger brother. She had to keep him alive by knocking the side of the bucket. So then the ambulance came, and the man put him on the handkerchief as he wasn't breathing, but he survived. I thought my life was normal. I never used to think why I was on the earth, or if there was a purpose for me. I started idolising film stars and pop stars, different ones. The first one was Clint Eastwood. I was heavy into him. I had posters of him on the wall. I used to talk to him, kiss him on the poster. I started to get headaches. My mum took me to this clinic. I was about 12 years old at the time. She shared all this to the doctor that I kept thinking of, Clint. All the time the doctor said not to do that while I'll be ill, but my nan took me to the cinema to see one of his films, Pale Rider. This was around the 80s. As I got older, I went on to another actor. Bill Bixby was in The Incredible Hulk series. He played David Banner, the scientist. I found out his agent's address, Michael Brandon, through writing to this place called Service Listings in Bournemouth. They keep celebrity addresses, so they sent me Bill's agent's address in California, America. I rang an operator who gave overseas phone numbers. So she gave me the number, so then I rang up America to try and talk to Bill. But every time I rang up his agent, he said he wasn't there. I also used to contact the Universal Studios too, where the Hulk was made. I used to use £1 to £2 at a time to ring up America. Another time I rang up the operator to say I lost money or the telephone didn't work. They used to refund me back the money in a cheque. I never really lost the money. They used to report the phone as faulty. But I also wanted to be an actress to act with these film stars. Also, I would like to film with a camcorder. I also went on to different film stars. I liked Jason Connery out of Robin of Sherwood. I found his address from Celebrity Listings. He sent me a photo of himself signed to Karen Love from Jason Connery. I used to tape Robin of Sherwood off the TV by putting a tape recorder by the TV speaker. Everyone had to be quiet. I also did the same with The Incredible Hulk. My dad didn't have a video recorder at the time, so as I put the tape recorder by the TV speaker to pick up the sound, but I couldn't follow the pictures. I could follow the pictures in mind. I used to cry at the end. There are also too many film stars and pop stars I went on and off. I also used to tape the A-Team series. I was in their fan club. I liked Face, who was in there. I was also into horror films. Also, I taped V, the science fiction series that was on the late at night. It was people on spaceships who had different voices. If anything happened or they ripped any skin, it used to be green, like Alien. That's what they were. I used to have a colouring book of this alien spaceships. I used to carry it around, and the lady who played Diana, the main commander, was on the front with someone else. I also used to like E.T. When I was younger, I used to say to my sister Margaret that E.T. was in the moon, as it had like dark in it, but really that wasn't the clouds. I also used to watch the 80s, a fan game show. These two men, I wrote to one of the men, Stan Borgman, sent me his photo with his name on it. I used to have an orange scrapbook with scissors on. I used to put different photos with film stars and pop stars in. I then went on to Shakin' Stevens. I was in his fan club. I used to ring his secretary and speak to her in London. I also had posters of him on the wall. I used to talk to him and have him in bed with me. He was Welsh. These were his newsletters, which is with the pictures on. I used to have a bag with his face on. I had badges on my coat, also a scar. I went to his concerts. My mum came to the first concert with me, and I cried to one of his songs, as this other girl was also crying in the other seat. I also went to see him play golf with a friend around the 80s. Also in the 80s, this programme called Jimmy Fix It, hosted by Jimmy Savile, who fixes things for people to meet pop stars. So I wrote to him, as my dad encouraged me to, as I wanted to meet Shakin' Stevens, but I never heard back from Jimmy Fix It. Anyway, when I did go to the first concert after it finished, me and my mum, we went to the stage door at the Birmingham Odeon in Birmingham to see if he would come out, but he didn't. I used to record, tape different things off the TV. I liked a series called The Kids from Fame. It was a dancing and singing set in a dance school. I liked this lady, Coco, when it came on. She used to sing the song Fame. I liked her hair as it was long and jumped up and down. I also had the Fame makeup. Also, I bought leg warmers, what they used to wear. I had the records like I had with the other pop stars. I also used clay my dad's music, cassettes from country music to the 50s, 60s and 70s songs, even the LPs hits of the swinging 60s, Hot Chocolate, etc. I went on to Elvis Presley as my dad had tapes of him. I had a newspaper about his family. One day I bought a tape of his. It had a song always on my mind, but one day it got stuck in the tape recorder and I was upset, and my dad tried to stitch it together with nail varnish, but they actually brown tape, and it worked. Since then, tapes have got stuck, or videos, I take them apart and stick them with nail varnish. Sometimes it's been in the middle of the tape or video. I used to have to put it all in one wheel. It could take a long time, as I had to be careful it just didn't fall off. Even after I was a Christian, this started. Also, I used to record the top 40 on the radio every Sunday evening from the 80s, etc. I used to drink white wine, martini, etc. And I kept it in my parents' bedroom in the wardrobe. Also, I used to drink shandies when I was about 12 years old. My dad said it wouldn't hurt me, as it had pop in it, lemonade. I used to go shopping with my mum, and I used to steal leg warmers. Also, I used to do the lottery. Even after I became a Christian, I did it, and do the coin machines where you put 1s or 2 or 10 pences in, or 50s, etc., and put them in. And I used to do it with my mum when she left home from my dad a few times. This took place in Yardley Swan Centre, and I didn't like heights. One time my mum stopped at her mum's flat in Adderwood, Wells Tower. I stopped there as well with my sisters, etc. And this was the same flat my mum's stepsister jumped from the 7th floor, but she also tried the 14th, but she didn't succeed on that one. The lift wasn't there, I think, and then she jumped from the 7th floor. But I still got up to height, so I know what it is. Also, I went to Drayton Manor Park in a fun fair with my sister. We went on this thing that went round called the Flying Dutchman, and it felt like it was pulling my head off. That's what she said. It felt like that now I didn't like things that go round. Also, this Catholic couple my mum knew arranged a trip for me and my sister and brother in Stourport. We stayed in this church hall. We all slept on the floor, and with others, children, also the helpers. We also used to play up when it came to night time. So the helpers came out and told us all off. This one boy they spoke to, that if he didn't behave, they would put him outside in the rain. They did it. But one of the helpers, named John, and I liked him. Somebody must have told him that I liked him. One night, when all the others were asleep or going to sleep, John came in and kissed me. I think the helpers who were in the staff room were laughing halfway. Through the beginning of the week, I started to have homesickness, and I wanted to go home. Also, John gave me his address to write to him. So this lady started to talk to me, but I still wanted to go home. She advised me to lie down, as it was too far away to go home. But in the end, I was taken home from Stourport to my parents in Ladywood, Birmingham, and my sister and my brother stayed there. Anyway, after a while, I started to write to this John. One day, I received a photo from him. My dad got to know about it, the letter and the photo. He looked at the photo, and my dad said he knew him. He used to mess with children, and he was in prison. As my dad was in prison, as he took the place of a family member who was ill and couldn't go into prison. It was in Winson Green. Anyway, this John wasn't his real name. My sister and brother came back a week later from Stourport. I used to have a grey blanket and a baby's bottle right up till I was 18 years old. Even my first boyfriend didn't know. I used to have it till I was about 20 years old. But after, my dad knew him also from W Road Hospital. So we used to be a quarter. my nan and family said you can take it to work with you. Every time people used to come, I used to hide it. I don't have it now. I also used to go up to the doctors every Tuesday in Antwerp when I was young with my dad. Then he used to go up to his mum's, my nan's flat in Smellig. I used to go into her bedroom to play her records on the hi-fi stereo. One time my mum said that when I was 2 years old, her and my dad went to the social club by City Hospital in Winson Green, where he was a porter. He then had to give it up since he pulled his back and ended up with his life arthritis and different things. And my nan also ended in a wheelchair with the same similar thing. Anyway, when I went to the social club, I used to dance with my bottoms sticking out, dancing by the lights that flashed. I had a tape from my dad as I went on to the rock band Status Quo, and was also into their fan club and go to their concerts at the NEC Birmingham. I had the badges. I used to like Rick Parfitt, and I used to write to this pen pal from the newsletter I had from the fan club. We used to speak on clean thoughts and fantasize what we would do to him. I also brought a t-shirt and had Status Quo on it. I went up to Birmingham City Centre, went to a shop that prints t-shirts, so they put on words like by felt letters. Also, one day I wanted to learn how to drive. I bought the highway code. My dad used to drive, so I used to talk to him and him to me about cars, and how he used to be done with cars. Going wrong, he lost money. He said automatics are better than manuals. I didn't have any driver lessons. One night I was watching this horror film with my dad, as me and my sister used to sleep on this bed settee in the living room. She was at the bottom and me at the top. Anyway, I was watching this horror film. It really scared me and I was upset. My dad said it's not real. I know it is real. I also used to read my star signs out of the paper or news. I used to apply for dates, trying to get a boyfriend. One man answered my apply, and he arranged to meet me at the Red Lion pub in King's where I lived with my parents. But he didn't turn up. I was in the bedroom of my parents, where my dad was in bed. I was telling him about these dates. He said to me like a warning to be careful. You don't know who they are in the paper. Also, some other man applied to me. He lived in All Green or Acock Street. I went on the bus to try and find his home. He lived somewhere in Shaftmore Lane, but I couldn't find it. I went home. I had to send photos so they would recognise me. Anyway, one day I heard of this other man. He was from Turkey. He sent me a letter and photo of himself. He was a middle-aged man. He wanted me to go to Turkey to meet him. My dad advised me not to go because of what they do over there. I was crying, but my dad said it was up to me. But I didn't go. You can see that the Lord, even in that time, that the Lord was protecting me, even through my dad. I used to go to this music workshop. It had different people there, only a few. It had drums, etc. in steady parts. I used to have to pass this laundrette. This man used to be outside. He was the manager. He used to talk to me. He said he helps young girls who have sexual problems by going with them. So I also got involved with him. He was a married man with children. His wife and children used to come in the laundrette but didn't know what was happening. I used to just act as he said, just like a customer. I used to record it all, and my mum used to listen with the headphones on at home, but she didn't tell my dad. He was sitting right there, listening, watching TV. Anyway, this lasted for a week or a month. Seeing him there, I left him and worked in the workshop. I did see him quite a while later at the top of the road in King's Heath. He said to me, we have to go out sometime, but it didn't happen. Then when I was at Olyhead School in Antwerp, my nan had this man friend for years. He was coloured, and he used to tape these reggae songs and bring me the tape up to the school, through the school gates. He said they were his love songs to me. You're trying to do this at the back of Tesco, 5 ways. And then I saw him with my nan, etc. He used to whisper to me, I love you. He lived in Charlie Road, where my other school was. I used to go to. Anyway, they must have reported at school to my parents and to go. And it got back to my nan. She was upset and shocked. But I didn't tell them I was seeing him. Anyway, I can't remember what happened. And I was young. My nan got taken. Right, my nan got taken a while after. So I went to the hospital with my dad to see her. Then she was let out and went back in. She was okay. As my auntie did with the rollers. She died just like that. She had arthritis in a wheelchair. It was a shock to me. When I saw her at the funeral home, I was only 12 years old and I started to have my ladies' monthlies, and it really was bad that time. My dad always said it's because of what happened with that man, why she died. Because I didn't tell them, but I forgave him about that. My mum also lost her mum. She was more than that. Anyway, I was also into the serious prisoner cell block 8. A women's prison at Setting Wentworth. Also I was into their fan club. One time I went with my mum to London to see a few of the cast who were in it. They were in a cell block play at Wimbledon Theatre. Before it started, a band came called the Jailbreakers. They sang the songs from the 60s, 50s and 70s at the end. I brought the tape. I liked the lead singer, so I started to write to him at his recording studios. After a while, his girlfriend wrote to me and said not to keep writing to him. Afterwards, me and my mum were on the underground tube on the way home, back to Birmingham. We were eating and talking. Suddenly, the light went out where we were sitting. All the parts were in light, but we were in darkness. But we got home in the end. I also went to see another play of Cell Block 8 with this man and his daughter, to see another actress, as I was in their fan club. I got to know the news. So this other actress, Betty Bobbers, who played the lesbian Judy Bryant, she was coming over to Birmingham to meet fans, which held in this pub or nightclub. I had a drink. I was underage, but when I got in, I also met these 2 ladies who ran the fan club in Derby. So it came for me to meet Betty. I gave her a gift. She gave me a kiss and a signed photo. I also taped the conversation I had with my tape recorder in my bag. I also met this lady who was in the fan club. She was a nice lady from Codown, Ireland. She came over to Birmingham a few times. We used to go to the pub. I also had different records, what I call music, to the themes. My dad also brought me the records, one by Culture Club, one by Queen, I Want to Break Free, etc. He also brought me the tape recorder. One time, I also went to see Francis Rossi, son out of Status Quo, playing in a band called Little Egypt. They're all a rock band. I also taped this also with my tape recorder in my bag. This was at the Mercat up in Birmingham. I also knew this elderly man. I can't remember what happened. We didn't do anything. I also went to the cinema, Birmingham Odeon, and watched the film Look Who's Talking with John Travolta. I used to take my tape recorder and I taped the sound, and I used to follow it in my head. Anyway, after a while I met this man who became my second boyfriend. He was coming down the road with his shopping. My parents lived a short way up the road. So at the time he invited me to his home. I had my twins in the pushchair at the time, Roy and Tara, my brother and sister, as I used to take them out and others to the park, while my dad used to have a wash etc. in the bathroom. Anyway, he used to give the money, this boyfriend, to buy things. Also he brought me some shoe boots. He lived with his mum. He was looking after her. He had ginger hair. My dad said there's about that I still lived in King's Heath with my parents. I was about in my early 20s or 30s. He's the one that wanted to have my first front teeth done, as they were really bad and green. So that's why I had the crowns fitted. We also went to the cinema with his mum. Also me and sometimes his ex-girlfriend came with us to this nightclub at weekends in Birmingham called the Dome 2 at weekends. It used to be the Dome, but they shut it down because of some trouble, so they reopened it again. He was a member, so he asked me if I wanted to become one, so I did. His ex-girlfriend used to tell me things about him. We also went to this pub once, and he took his karaoke machine as he knew about my singing lessons, so I sang in the pub. My first boyfriend I met was at the talent show in Ladywood. It didn't work out. He brought me a ring, but it was a dress ring. He kept saying we'd get married when I was 21, but it didn't happen. One day he bought a box came through the post with all my nightwear in, as I used to stay over his flat in Oakley on Friday night, and then come back home on Saturday morning. This is where my mum and dad lived years ago when I was born. My mum said one day I got in front of the swing and bumped my head. I have a dent in my head. They took me to the hospital, but I was okay. I also had this trouble with when I was at one of my schools as well. I had school in Answorth. I had something happen to my foot. Some children was coming down, and as I was coming down, the big sharp, like a big sharp thing that opened the door, went across my foot, and I still got the dent in it, but I forgive them as well. Anyway, I couldn't get over that. We split up when he sent me a letter, so I went over there one night with my twins, a sister, brother, but he didn't let me in. Something was going on, but I have forgiven him now. I saw him about a few years ago and said, I forgive you for what you did. He thought I wouldn't speak to him again. I told him I was a Christian. Anyway, I spoke things, so I was with this second boyfriend now. I used to work as a trainee by the job centre from Gordon Franks, like a work programme. So, as I was training for ETAR in this charity shop called Cancer Research Campaign in Kingsley, I had to learn, so I had to get an NVQ. NVQ. This lady came down to the shop every week from Gordon Franks, and she used to test me on things. I did pass two, one for health and safety and good housekeeping, but I didn't get the NVQ. Also, when me and my sister were young, my dad bought us a bike with stables on. I had a green one, and my sister had a red one. I also found out that I have a stepsister, but I never met her. She'll be older than me. But anyway, I will share about how Jesus saved me. This is the start of a journey. I mean, there's a lot more to this, but it all started with writing to a Quo fan in Kings Winford. He was a pen pal I used to go to and visit her. We went one with her boyfriend, and her name was Jane. Anyway, one day she passed my address on to this other Quo from Roger. He was a Christian who went to Quo concerts. One day I received a letter from him. He shared with me that he was a Christian and that Jesus died on the cross for me. He invited me, or asked me if I wanted to go to his Christian rock band event Petra. It was at the Aston Leisure Centre in Birmingham. He asked me if I wanted to go because somebody dropped out and then there was a spare ticket left. So I said yes. He then arranged for me to meet him. I asked my mum what a Christian was. She said somebody who follows Jesus. One day she was talking to me and my brothers and sisters, and she was in the covenant with the nuns. You know, stepsister, my other second sister, came back from the Sunday school. As she was a Sunday school teacher, she said something about Judgment Day, and I said something like, it's a load of rubbish, or I don't believe it. Anyway, Roger came to pick me up in this car. He wasn't the one driving, so we arrived at this leisure centre in Aston. this band Petra finished, Roger introduced me to this couple, John and Julie, and then they asked me if I would like to go to this church in Alzoe on Sunday night. I said yes. They told me how to get there, and that was to get there. And I started to go from the October 16th, 1994. So anyway, it was dark when I got there, but I got off at the Stourbridge Terminus bus station. I should have got off at Alzoe, Carlygate, Providence Church. I was now lost and alone in Stourbridge. There was a telephone box, so I rang Julie up and told her where I was. I wasn't sure if she would be in. I thought she might be at church. She told me that I should have get off at Windmill Hill in Alzoe. Then she said she was going to pick me up from Stourbridge. I recently found out over the road where I was that was a pub called the Rock Station, which I put Jesus being the rock. Also, there was a path called Angel's Passage. Julia then picked me up, and we arrived at this church. It was a Methodist called Providence, which means divine guidance of people and things. But where I was, it was held in the church hall. When I first went in, I noticed flags and sheets of cloth hanging from the ceiling. They had poles each side. I saw Bible verses on them. I had a coffee, as it didn't start till half 7 p.m. I met a few different people. I then sat down. I noticed a card on the side of the wall which said Christians aren't perfect, but just forgiven. And down in front of me was a picture of Jesus on the wall. The series was called The Reason 2. It means a pop culture style multimedia worship and theme event. I went home that night. I went a few times more. Then the one Sunday night on the 20th of November 1994, I went again. This time was called Directions and Choices. It was called The Reason. So as before, I had a coffee. I then sat down. This was the night that the Lord challenged me. It started with the Bible slices, a message by the Worldwide Message Tribe, and a video clip by Bluebird TV. The clip was showing Jesus on the cross dying for me. It was taken from the film Jesus of Nazareth, which I found out by asking this lady, Michelle, what film it was. I bought the video at W.H. Smith. Anyway, after the video finished, there was a silence for reflection and response and confession. So I went out and inquired about becoming a Christian. So Julie took me aside and she showed me a trap. It showed the man with a sack of rubbish on his back going through a tunnel. It represents Jesus. Takes away my sin. She said he's the one who clears it up. Then I prayed a prayer to the Lord in my own words, not the prayer on the trap. It was a quiet time. It wasn't emotional. She said I could do it on the track, all in my words. Then after I prayed, Julie started to tell others what I just did. And I became a Christian, gave my heart to Jesus. I remember Julie taking to Ross. He worked the lights that night. And anyway, everyone was happy and joyful. So was I. Hooray! Praise the Lord! I went back to the Reason with my husband Terry at the Providence in December 2001. Christmas celebration, good news for you. It was all new and painted inside white. Julie was encouraged to see me and hugged me. She showed me where it happened on the side where I prayed to receive Jesus. I said about the Jesus of Nazareth. She said, I don't know, but we were having that tonight. They showed his birth, crucifixion on the screen. Also, we went back again around 2005. We thought the Reason was on, but it wasn't. Anyway, John was talking with other believers, discussing different things. Then after, he shared with them that this Karen, she was saved here. John is Julie's husband. Anyway, back to that. After I was saved in 1994, I went home happy. I lived with my parents. I was about 21. Roger, who wrote to me about Jesus, he couldn't be here this night as he was ill. But recently he said that the Holy Spirit kept telling him to pray for me nearly all day till night. He said there were others praying for me as well. He said also that he heard that they were closing it down, the reason, as people were not coming in and being saved, but then they reopened it again. This is before I started to go. The Lord had a plan. Amen. Anyway, as I went home that night, I told my mum I became a Christian. Recently I asked her if she noticed any difference that night. She said she thought to herself that there's something different with our Karen. I think my dad noticed. Anyway, my second boyfriend I was with, I said to him that I have Jesus and I'm a Christian and we can't sin anymore. We were after finishing and said we can still be friends. Anyway, I started wearing badges about Jesus on my coat. I also brought a silver necklace with the name of Jesus. Also, I brought a card called the Cross in my pocket, which had a gold cross on. One day I went to see Kathy. She used to do my songs on the piano. I also remember this table, cloth and light shade. I shared to her that I was saved. She was overjoyed and happy. And her husband was. They're both already Christians. She said that's good news. I found out recently that she was praying for me a lot before I was saved. I lived with my parents in Kingsley. One day these people found out that I was a Christian as I wore badges and I used to carry the Bible with me. They called me a Bible basher. I've forgiven them. No. My sister Margaret knew I was saved. She knew these different friends from school, church, where they used to go to. So I got to know another Christian, another Kathy. I used to go around a lot to her home. It was a good fellowship. She and me used to talk a lot about the Lord. She gave me a book called 60 Days for New Christians. A few days later I went to town to W.H. Smith to buy the Jesus Nations video. I had to take it back as it was faulty and they changed it. My sister Margaret must have told this to other Christian, Janet, that I had this video and Janet wanted to watch it. So my sister told me that, so I went round quite a lot to her home. So I got to know her. She gave me different things to help me. She told me about the Christian bookshop called CLC in Birmingham City Centre. I bought different books on the Christian faith, also a few Christian tapes, worship, praise. Also I used to meet Janet in the city centre and we used to go to this Tuesday afternoon talk at Phillips Cathedral for prayer and the Word of God. This was around 1995. I bought pictures, postcodes with Jesus on the cross, and a different one of him, also one with the stained glass window. My mum one day also brought me this brown cardboard cross with pictures on. I used to have it on the wall in the bedroom, but I did throw them away in the same year, 1995. In the city centre by the cathedral there was a March for Jesus where lots of Christians gathered. We were around singing and praising the name of Jesus. They had banners, boards, etc. I joined in. He was led by Graham Kendry. He was good. One time I went to this church called St Martin's in Birmingham's Boring. To the shop they had. I looked around but I didn't buy anything. But they had free books and leaflets, so I had this book called The Road Ahead. Also, I went to this other Christian shop called Spek, S-P-E-K, in the city. It was a mixed, I didn't know at the time, so I bought a book called Catholic Christianity. I read bits of it and it mentioned about 7 heavens, but now I know it was wrong because the Bible only mentions 3rd heaven. I used to keep this book under my mattress when I was living with my parents in King's Heath around 95. I don't know what happened to it, as my parents moved to Winson Green. I also wrote to the Billy Graham Evangelist Association, as I was saved but experiencing doubt. They sent me a letter and books. One was called Practical Steps in Christian Living. The other was called Peace with God, and inside the Gospel of John, and one how to find peace with God. Also, when I went to this Christian bookshop, I had a book called Journey into Life by Norman Warren. One day when I was in my bedroom, my mum bought me this booklet called Monster Plus by Ronald Bonnke, The Epic of Christ's Cross. All around 1994 and beginning of 95, it came by post. It explained about sin, salvation. I read it through, and as I opened it up on the first page, it had the crucifixion in it again. After I read it all, I said the prayer at the back, then I had to send it. Then I had to send his decision card, and I would send back a church in my area. So one day I received a book called Ultimate Plus explaining what happens and my assurance in Christ. I also received a church from them in my local area. It was in Kings Heath, where I was living with my parents. The church called Calvary Chapel Pentecostal. I started to go after a while. Pastor Kai and his wife came down to my parents' home where I was to introduce themselves. My mum answered the door. Francie said something like that. I was safe with them. Also, one time, Julie and John from the Reason came to drop down a Bible to my home. It had inside from everyone at the point. This was a prayer meeting or Bible study I went to in Alzheimer's. Another day, when I was in my bedroom, my mum came interviewing this other book, which she thought was Christian. It was a Jehovah's Witness Watchtower magazine. I thought it was, as I started to read it with my Bible. It looked very similar to the Bible. It also had pictures in it. So I read it, it went with it, and then it didn't. It was strange. It had about, in the beginning, was a God. But the Bible said, in the beginning, God. So I didn't know what happened to it. But I don't have it now. Anyway, my second boyfriend, who said we could still be friends, I went round this night to his home to watch his film to the Last Temptation of Christ. My dad was videoing it for me at the same time. Nothing happened at my boyfriend's. I went home after. Anyway, one day I went to Janet, the one who watched Jesus of Nazareth video. I showed her the video of his film, The Last Temptation of Christ. She said that it was a blasphemy film. It's against Jesus. She said I should have thrown it away at the time. I didn't know I wanted to throw it away because it was about Jesus. So I was only a young Christian, and I didn't understand. I did throw it away in the end. One day, Janet's daughter Rachel and me, one night, we were in the bus going out to hear the gospel show of Bobby Ball and Tommy Cannon's testimony. It was the Coxmore Leisure Centre in Bootsy. As we got off the bus, we started to talk and we were walking. Rachel found out that she lost her purse. We thought we had to leave it and go home, but we prayed and the Lord answered. She found it. So we went in and we were trying to find our seats, or sitting in our seats. I said to her that you can feel the Holy Spirit. There were Christians there and unbelievers. It was good. At the end, there was one who got saved, had to fill in decision cards. Then we found out the man who was working the lights got saved. This was around 94 or 95. I went back to the Christian bookshop and bought a book called Believe and Be Baptized by Victor Jack. Then around the beginning of it, 95, I rang up Francis and Colin, the pastor, and his wife from Calvary Chapel. Right, I'll leave this is part 1. I'll do part 2 and finish it off